When did you develop an interest in the Yakuza? And it probably would help if you broke down what that organization is as well for the listener.
Sure. First of all, when we say Yakuza, we are using a term that refers to 20 plus different organized crime groups in Japan. Um, the big three being the Yamaguchi-gumi, which was founded in 1915, making them over 100 years old. The Sumiyoshi-kai, which is based in Tokyo. They have an office in Ginza. If you're shopping in Ginza, you can go knock on their office doors. I wouldn't advise that you do it. I think they're under the name Hama Enterprise, but sometimes they change the name. Then there's the Inagawa Kai, which is based actually in Yokohama, but they have their offices in Roppongi, right across from the Ritz-Carlton. So if you go there on a certain Thursday of the month, you can see them all lining up in their black cars and having meetings, and there'll be a lot of cops out there sort of like watching to see that there's no trouble. The Yamaguchi-gumi has their offices in Kobe, and their offices are like a city block. It's like a huge fortress. You can see it on Google Maps. I've actually been in the compound a couple of times because they used to have a neighborhood Halloween party for the kids, up until 2017, and quite a lavish party, very well liked in their neighborhood. And I knew an Indian family there, and I would pretend to, be the uncle and go with the kids just to observe. And
Wow.
I think at some point they realized that, who I was, but we were all just very nice and polite about it. And, didn't break that fourth wall of like, you're really a reporter. You're not this kid's uncle.
Probably best that you guys kept the fourth wall intact. I would agree.
Yeah.
So when did they first hit your radar? When did you first develop an interest in not only the organization, but a desire to write about them?
Well, I wasn't interested in them, but I was assigned to them. So it wasn't like this. Every reporter in Japan typically starts on the police beat. You get hired, you get sent to a regional office. Everybody's on the police beat, with some exceptions. So the very first year that I was on the job, there was a brewing story about a serial killer husband and wife. They were dog breeders and pet shop owners. And around them for 10 years, 10 people disappeared. And we all knew that the Saitama police were investigating that this was going to be the top story, because there's not that many serial killers in Japan, and this was such a bizarre case. So everybody got assigned like a victim, like a missing person to follow up on. And I got assigned this Yakuza boss, an underboss named Endo Makoto from the Inagawa Kai, Takaragumi. And my job was to find out when he disappeared, why he might have been killed, find people that when they did find his body or find out what happened to him could comment for the paper. And so I'm like, okay, I don't know much about the Yakuza, so I better read up a little bit. And I remember the first time, I went to the Takaragumi office. I'm like, well, he was a member here. So I'll knock on the door and see, what they can tell me about him, or when was the last time they saw him. And man, that was a terrible mistake, because I knocked on the door and I heard dogs barking and people running, and they chased me down the street. And, I hopped into a taxi and ran away. It wasn't a particularly great moment in my journalism career, but over time, we spent a lot of time working on this story. It turned out that there was a detective from the organized crime squad who had been sent to the homicide squad to work on this case. So he was kind of an odd man out, because the homicide squad guys are very territorial and very tribal. They don't really like outsiders. They don't really like reporters very much either. But this one guy, Sekiguchi Chiaki, who was living in the area, who I think he went to high school with the Yakuza boss. So he also knew the guy who disappeared, because it was a small town. I kind of wormed my way into his graces, just like on the TV show. I did bring ice cream to the house after, not failing to meet him many times on a hot summer night. And I was like, here's the ice cream for your kids, because I keep seeing your kids every time I open the door and you tell me your husband isn't home, but it's going to melt. So please enjoy. And then, I heard him from the background. He's like, yeah, come on in. And They came in, I ate ice cream with them and the kids, and that was the beginning of our friendship and mentorship.
How can I help? How can I be useful in ending needless suffering? Do not be afraid of work that has no end.
We have to organize a social movement.
We have an opportunity to lead by example versus just talking, hot air. I think the more people in this fight, the more we grow. Eventually it could change. The people are the ones that can make the change.